To save money, the girl used a stapler to stitch up her wound. But to be honest, is a Band-Aid really that expensive? The doctor took out painkillers, but the girl was worried they'd be too expensive, so she pulled the staples out of her arm with her bare hands. She even used her teeth to bite them out. This really scared the doctor, but the girl secretly told him, so the doctor brought in a bowl of ice water to see if the girl really couldn't feel pain. But 5 minutes passed, and the girl stayed calm. While the doctor couldn't take it anymore, he quickly pulled his hand out, and at that moment, he had to believe the girl really didn't feel any pain. Then the girl said, at first, her classmates didn't believe her until they hit her stomach 25 times. That's when they believed her.
What's the baseball bat?
After hearing this, the doctor immediately sent the girl for an MRI. Sure enough, there was a lot of bleeding inside her stomach. She had most likely been hit with a baseball bat. They had to do surgery fast. After the successful surgery, the girl's parents stood by her, comforting her. No matter how poor they were, they would never let their daughter worry about money. What have you done to save money? A girl is stuck 50 meters up on a power line. To avoid touching her and creating an electric circuit, the firefighters have to slowly put a rope around her, then ask her to let go with her hands. But the parents on the ground don't understand the danger. Just a moment ago, the firefighters got a call from the parents, saying their daughter had been taken up into the sky by a kite and might fall at any moment. The kite also hit a transformer box, sparking electricity. Rescue was urgent to make sure the girl doesn't touch the firefighters and get shocked. The firefighters have to move both fast and slow while tying the rope around her. But when they get one leg tied, the firefighter is very nervous. She's afraid the girl might suddenly let go or move and touch her, causing an electric shock. Luckily, nothing went wrong. Following the firefighter's instructions, the girl bravely lets go of the power line. The firefighter catches her in time, and she is safely rescued. The parents, who were blaming the firefighters earlier, now realize their mistake and quickly apologize. What do you think of this couple?
Wait, no!
It looks painful.
Oh no! Okay, all right.
The firefighters surrounded him to check his condition. Luckily, it was only swollen, not broken.
All right, this is gonna help with the swelling, all right?
Can you keep me covered up, man?
Yep.
What exactly happened? It turns out there had just been a fire in the neighborhood. Firefighters arrived to rescue the residents. As they brought people out one by one, they began investigating the cause of the fire. They suspected it was due to an overloaded electrical box. Then they went to the backyard and encountered the man. As the firefighters approached to ask him questions, he nervously started saying,
I'm not doing anything illegal.
Look, we're at the fire. We just want to talk to you.
Before they could finish talking, he jumped down directly. It turns out he had been stealing electricity from the neighborhood to mine cryptocurrency, but the high voltage overheated the CPU, causing it to burn. His jumping was purely out of a guilty conscience. A man wanted to cosplay as Spider-Man and climbed up a 100-story building without any safety gear. He almost fell and became a spider mummy. Luckily, firefighters arrived just in time. They took the elevator to the top of the building so they could stop the man when he reached the top. The firefighters got to the window, first using a suction cup to hold the glass in place. Then they pulled out a saw and started cutting. By this time, the man had made it to the top too, so the team worked faster, cutting through the glass just in time. Then the firefighter tied safety ropes and got ready to go out and rescue the man. The firefighter reached out to the man, but he kept dodging them and even let go of his hand. At that moment, the other window was also cut open. As the man moved to the side, a firefighter quickly grabbed him and dragged him back into the building. But if he really wanted to be Spider-Man, he just needs to get bitten by a spider. No need to climb that high, right? The girl was pinned under 2 tons of steel.
I can't breathe.
Try to stay calm. Nice slow breaths, okay?
Meanwhile, her father seemed to be doing all right.
Can you hear me?
My daughter, you have to help her.
The captain decides to save the girl first. The firefighters stabilize the vehicle and remove the door, preparing to rescue her.
How was my dad?
The girl is still worried about her father, but after an examination, the paramedic realizes she's deteriorating quickly. After a few minutes, the girl is finally freed. Next, it's the man's turn, but when the firefighters cut away the debris, Everyone is shocked. It turns out that a steel beam had already pierced his body. He had been holding on the entire time. The paramedic determines he likely won't survive. The captain asks if he wants to see his daughter one last time.
No. No, I don't want her to see me like this. Will you tell her something for me?
Sure.
And tell her that she's good. She's really good.
Do you love your dad?
Well, I knew you were sleeping with her.
I am not!
WTF? When the firemen arrived, they thought he had been attacked. They were ready to call the police for him, but the man said no one attacked him. So how did he get those wounds? Turns out, he had just had an appendix surgery recently. The person who stitched him up was over 100 years old, so the stitches weren't done properly. Just now, the man sneezed, and it popped open the wound. His wife also explained, whenever he lies, he sneezes. If he hadn't lied about not cheating, his belly wouldn't have busted open. The husband looked at his happy wife, with angry. He said he never loved her, but unexpectedly, the wife found out he still loved her, and immediately decided to forgive him. The husband promised he wouldn't cheat again. Then, come on, girl, if he really loved you, he wouldn't have cheated on you in the first place. The boy had 2 fingers blown off by a firework. The firefighter was treating his wound.
Hey, watch it!
Knock it off!
But the kids wouldn't listen and kept messing around, even aiming fireworks at the firefighter. Seeing they actually hurt someone, the kids bolted, leaving the firefighter to deal with it. The female paramedic came over to tend to his wound. The firefighter brushed it off as a minor injury, but she insisted he disinfect it thoroughly and change the bandage regularly, giving him a list of reminders until he finally nodded. Just as the two shared a quiet, close moment, the female firefighter found the boy's missing fingers in the grass. If they could be reattached in time, the boy's right hand might still function. The man's thigh was pierced by Marlin's bill. The doctor wanted to cut it out right away, but the man firmly disagreed. This fish was one he had worked so hard to catch. The doctor had no choice but to arrange for him to get a CT scan first, while waiting for the results.
Are you okay?
What the just happened?
It turned out the fish's body had metal in it, possibly from a fishhook or something, which exploded upon contact with the equipment. Now the fish was definitely dead. Surgery was unavoidable, while the man was still worried about the fish.
Franklin! Oh no! Franklin!
No one knew that the next second, the man passed out. The female doctor quickly used her fingers to plug the wound, and they were both rushed into the operating room.
A man got stuck in the guillotine, narrowly avoiding a complete beheading. Fortunately, the blade jammed, preventing a successful cosplay execution. Nevertheless, the man suffered a neck wound, luckily missing the vital arteries. The paramedics first tried to reassure the man, and then brought cutting tools. Even with the combined efforts of several people, the blade remained unmoved, bringing the man's wife to tears on the side. So, the rescue team had to pick up the saw and cut. But the man angrily shouted for them to stop, because he needed the guillotine for a performance. The rescue team ignored him, cut the fixed point, used a spreader to open the gap, and finally pulled up the blade. The man was at last rescued, and as the paramedic looked at the wound on his neck, she couldn't help but feel a pain in her own neck. Man is stuck on the railing. A man, driven to despair after a heated argument with his wife, jumps from the 4th floor and is tightly wedged onto a railing. Firefighters rush to the scene. In a crucial moment, the captain decisively orders the use of a saw to cut through the railing. The man and the scalding metal are swiftly packaged for the hospital. As team members take up the saw, the railing grows hotter with each cut. Desperation sets in, dousing the searing metal with water to cool it down. With the last bar successfully severed, the man is temporarily rescued and smoothly placed onto a stretcher. As they approach the ambulance, the man goes into fibrillation. Urgency sets in. Defibrillation is imperative. Following the medic's command, the entire railing is swiftly removed. In a rapid sequence, the man is flipped, under the medic's expert hands, undergoes a defibrillation. His heartbeat quickly normalizes. He's hurried onto the ambulance.
1, 2,
To make his children happy on Halloween, the man shoved his head into a pumpkin he bought a month ago, only to find he couldn't pull it out no matter what. The captain told Buck to get some lubricant to forcibly remove it.
1, 2, 3.
Hey, wait, stop. He's saying it hurts.
When the team lifted the pumpkin, they discovered it had already rotted inside, filled with 10,000 bacteria, which had caused the man's neck and face to break out in hives. In an emergency, the firefighters had to use a saw to cut the pumpkin. After 12:34 minutes, the pumpkin finally cracked open, revealing the man's face. Chim quickly inserted a straw into the man's mouth and suctioned out the pumpkin guts he had inhaled. Under the anxious gaze of his daughter, the man finally recovered. As the firefighters were leaving, the man lamented how stupid he was for almost choking to death on a pumpkin. Buck reassured him he had seen plenty of foolish things. Just then, in the next second,
I think I dislocated my shoulder.
Dispatch, we're gonna need an additional RA unit.
the boy's bottom and face are on the same level. How will he go to the bathroom now? It turns out the boy was cheering for his teammates when he collided with a football player, and that's how the accident happened. An hour later, the firefighters finally arrived, but they had never seen anything like this before. They had to secure the boy and take him to the hospital, but as soon as he got in the ambulance, he passed out. Not only did he have external injuries, but he also had internal bleeding. If they couldn't stop the bleeding quickly, the boy might never wake up. In a critical moment, the man decided to use a balloon to stop the bleeding, but the ambulance was moving. Doing this kind of procedure on a 1 centimeter wound was really hard.
How'd that go for you?
50-50.
But to save the boy, the firefighters had to cooperate. The woman brought in an ultrasound machine to find the spot, and the firefighter driving slowed down in the shaking vehicle.
Okay, got it. Now here's the tricky part.
After securing the catheter, the man slowly inserted the balloon.
BP's back, and so is our boy!
The boy regained consciousness.
Dad?
Hearing Dad reminded the man of his own son.
Gonna be okay, kid.
Are you missing your dad? How hard do firefighters compete for the lieutenant position? A driver collapses in the truck from carbon monoxide poisoning, spinning in circles in the mud. The man initially plans to drive the fire truck to block the car, but the woman charges in without hesitation.
Who does she think she is, Laura Croft?
Nah, man. She's firefighter.
The driver is successfully rescued, and the captain praises her.
Bravo, Milani. Showboat.
Then, a worker's fake hand falls into the sewer. The female firefighter intends to use a pole to fish it out, but the man jumps in directly, pulling up the hand and even finding the ring that was on it. When it's time to wrap up, the captain sends someone to grab a hose, but both of them rush forward to take it. Neither wants to back down. The captain, puzzled by their antics, steps up to ask, but before he knows it,
You opened the wrong gate, didn't you?
You did it.
the plane crash left a girl with a broken leg. She needed immediate surgery. Firefighter guided the other passengers over the phone.
You're gonna cut it open. We need something razor sharp. Airplane cutlery will not work.
But where could they find a knife on a plane? At that moment, a blackie come out, asking for a toothbrush and a cigarette lighter. He crafted a toothbrush blade in just 5 minutes. The man took the blade and made an incision, starting from the girl's knee down to her ankle.
Oh God! Is it supposed to make a pop?
The surrounding passengers watched in horror, but the girl said,
And it feels better. You cut my leg open and it feels better.
her leg turned pink again, and her pulse returned. Everyone cheered in relief. Do you know where the man learned his toothbrush sharpening skills? A steel pipe stabbed into her belly.
Please save my baby girl.
The doctors can only do their best, but as they turn the woman's body, she passes out. The ultrasound shows the baby isn't doing well. To keep them both safe, the doctors must perform surgery quickly, but the chest x-ray shows there's free air in her abdomen, so they can't do a C-section. The head doctor decides to help her give birth, while also performing surgery. The doctors take out the steel pipe and cut open her skin to get the baby out, but the baby's face is blue, and they need to do CPR right away. The mom also goes into ventricular fibrillation. Luckily, the doctor's quick actions help the baby breathe. When the mother hears her baby cry, her heartbeat goes back to normal. What a miraculous moment. Do you love your mom? The dude was trapped inside the car. The firefighters tried to pry open the vehicle, but their tool unexpectedly broke. It turned out this was an armored truck, carrying $3 million in cash. Halfway through, it had been hijacked by criminals. The driver, initially confident, had tried to push through, only to be shot in the head. Now the truck was overturned, and the dude was trapped inside. The firefighters wanted to rescue but were at a loss, because the windshield of the armored truck was made in China. At that moment, one clever firefighter had an idea. Since the criminals fired shots, there had to be bullet holes in the truck. That might be a good point of entry. They started searching the vehicle, and finally found a hole in the glass. Then they began hammering away. After 1234 hits, the glass only had a small crack. The captain pulled out the big hammer.
Clear out! All right, bring the hook!
Then they used hooks to pull the glass away. They rescued the man, but his pulse was weak. The medic had to perform emergency surgery on site, cutting his trachea to insert a tube for oxygen.
Good. Come on, come on.
Come on, open your eyes for me. Come on. Come on. There you are. There you are. All right, that's okay. Try not to move. There's a tube in your throat that's breathing for you. Blink twice if you understand. Good job. There we go.
The woman was stuck on the shower rack, unable to move. Her boyfriend quickly called the firefighters, but when the firefighter got closer, she saw the handle was stuck in the woman's back. The firefighter told her to get a saw ready. The woman asked why they didn't just pull it out. The firefighter explained that the wall bracket looked like a fish hook, making it hard to take out easily. The medic told her not to move around. The firefighter grabbed the electric saw, and the woman got scared and wanted to run away. The firefighter quickly explained he needed to cut off the handle, but if she moved around, he might cut something else. She hugged the medic for comfort. The firefighter carefully looked for a way to do it. With the medic's reassurance, the woman finally calmed down. The firefighter started the operation. An hour later, the handle was finally cut off. After a quick bandage, the woman was taken to the hospital. But I'm curious, if the woman was taking a shower, why wasn't the man wearing any clothes? Either the woman is pregnant with a baby, but she has just died. Can the paramedics successfully rescue the baby? Just a moment ago, a woman died despite efforts to save her. When her sister arrived, she asked, "What about the baby?" It turns out the woman was 8 months pregnant. The paramedics quickly checked, and sure enough, they found a baby in her belly. They used a stethoscope to confirm the baby was still alive. The paramedics immediately began to save the pregnant woman. Although they couldn't save her, they could keep the baby getting oxygen, but the baby's heart rate kept dropping to ensure the baby's survival. Even though it wasn't allowed, the paramedics decided to perform a C-section. They took out their tools, made an incision in the skin, and pulled out the baby, but the baby wasn't breathing. They quickly used a bag to give the baby oxygen and started CPR. With a cry, the baby started to breathe again. Though it has lost its mother, it will be well taken care of by its family. After that shot, he couldn't stop laughing like a maniac. Even if his fingers were in spasms, the man felt no pain at all. Just as the doctor was preparing to send him for an MRI, he noticed the man's vision rapidly deteriorating. Before the examination was complete, he was completely blind. Then the man's heart rate shot up, and blood gushed out of his wound. Strangely enough, the doctor nearby didn't rush to help. Instead, he began laughing uncontrollably. It turned out both of them had contracted an unknown virus. Soon after, the man passed away. Due to his worsening condition, the doctor looked at the man's body and couldn't help but think about his own future. He pleaded with House to let him do a live tissue sample. Even though the procedure would be devastating to his brain, the doctor had no choice but to agree. In the end, the doctor survived, but...
Raise your right arm.
The guy crashed to the glass like a sack of potatoes. Just moments ago, the 600-pound man was sent to the hospital after fainting. It took 10 people working together just to get him onto the machine for tests. The scan showed his brain was fine, but what could possibly cause him to faint out of nowhere? Just then, the man suddenly woke up. In a panic, he started thrashing around and ended up completely wrecking over the equipment. It took a monumental effort to pull him out of there. with his mysterious fainting and sudden wake-up. What kind of illness did he have? Out of the blue, the man insisted on being discharged, claiming he was just overweight and had no illness. He warned if they didn't let him go, he'd cause chaos in the hospital. Reluctantly, the nurse discharged him, but as soon as he stood up and took 2 steps, his vision went black, and he crashed to the floor. The doctors had no choice but to check him again. That's when House noticed the man's hands were covered in lumps. He quickly ordered an x-ray, only to discover the man had advanced stage lung cancer and was about to kick the bucket. The man was baffled.
I never smoked.
How could I get lung cancer? The firefighter had just completed an emergency rescue when suddenly the man fell into a pool of blood.
Shot fired! Firefighter needs help!
The sniper was still looking for his next target. Buck rolled under the vehicle, risking his life. Buck dragged the fallen firefighter under the truck. Without wasting any time, the team rushed the injured man into the fire truck. The sniper continued firing. The firefighters desperately fled the scene. Inside the truck, Buck was performing emergency treatment on the man. The man, with only a breath left, was still asking if his teammates were okay.
Are you hurt? Firefighter with a gunshot! No, I'm good.
After saying that, he passed out. Do you know who is shooting the firefighter? Boy sent to the hospital after car accident, but when his mom arrived, she said the person who caused the accident must be the boy's father. What's going on here? Just a moment ago, the firefighters got a call about a car accident. A man was thrown out of the car, and the boy was stuck inside. The firefighters quickly put out the fire. Then they found the boy in the car. They pried open the car door, but they saw that a steel pipe had pierced the boy's thigh. If they cut the pipe now, it might cause heavy bleeding. So they decided to take the boy in the seat to the hospital for help. While the firefighters were cutting the pipe, the boy's mom rushed over. When she saw her injured son, she immediately called the police. She said she and her husband were getting a divorce, and they were fighting for custody of their son. She suspected her husband caused the accident on purpose, just to get back at her for the divorce. The firefighters quickly went to ask the father, but looking at how close he was with his son, he didn't seem like someone who would hurt his child, so they gave him a chance to explain. The man said he was scared he might never see his son again, so he decided to take him out to play, but they didn't expect to crash into a deer. And that's how the accident happened. The firefighters rushed back to the scene, and the next day they showed the wife a photo of the deer. That's when the woman realized she had wrongly accused her husband, and decided that, even though they were getting divorced, they would still raise their son together.
The girl's tongue swelled crazily, which left her best friend in shock at first glance. Her friend asked what she had consumed. Suspecting almond milk in her coffee had triggered an allergic reaction, she urgently inquired if the cafe had any adrenaline, and they indeed had it. She grabbed it and administered it by injecting it into the girl's thigh. Surprisingly, the girl's symptoms didn't improve. Instead, her tongue continued to swell, making it difficult for her to breathe. In a state of panic, the woman called 911. The operator, based on her description, concluded it wasn't an allergy but rather facial swelling due to stress. Meanwhile, the girl went into shock. Time was needed for the rescue team to arrive, so the operator guided the friend over the phone, instructing her to use a spoon to press down on the swollen tongue and insert a straw into the throat. Despite diligently following these instructions, the girl still couldn't regain her breath. A nearby man who witnessed the situation stepped in. He pinched her face firmly, inducing a sensation of pain. Finally, the girl regained consciousness. Just as the rescue team arrived at the scene, a woman cradling her newborn appears visibly flustered. The baby is wrapped in a resilient caul. Firefighters quickly step in to assist, needing to free the baby for immediate breathing. To their surprise, the amniotic sac proves to be remarkably tough. With a swift incision, accompanied by the opening of the amniotic sac, murky fluid spills onto the floor. At this moment, the firefighters are tirelessly working to rescue the baby. They use tools to clear the infant's airway and proceed to cut the umbilical cord. Finally, the baby exhibits faint signs of breathing, but urgent medical attention is essential. Upon reaching the hospital, the baby is found to be unharmed. However, the firefighters are puzzled to discover the woman completely indifferent to the well-being of the baby beside her. Even the child's grandmother is absent from the hospital. It turns out the girl's mother is furious because the girl's boyfriend disappeared just before the delivery.
Honey, I already had one baby girl and she was more than enough trouble for me. I want nothing to do with that one.
Firefighters don't just need to put out fires. They need to know how to rope a horse too. That's really a tough job. Just a moment ago, the fire station got a call. A horse barged into an outdoor bar, and its owner was slumped over on its back, unconscious. To get the horse to stop moving, the firefighters decided to offer it a drink, but it's a bar, so they poured beer into a bucket. They also grabbed a cloth, planning to cover the horse's eyes, then grabbed the reins while it was distracted. But the horse drank way too fast, and before they could catch it, it bolted. Just like that, it was off down the highway. The fire truck raced behind, while one firefighter started making a lasso. Then he passed it up to the captain on the roof of the truck. 10 minutes later, the captain finally threw the rope and lassoed the horse. The fire truck slowed down, and the horse gradually stopped too. The owner was sent to the hospital afterward. Have you ever ridden a horse? The boy's bottom and face are on the same level. How will he go to the bathroom now? It turns out the boy was cheering for his teammates when he collided with a football player, and that's how the accident happened. An hour later, the firefighters finally arrived, but they had never seen anything like this before. They had to secure the boy and take him to the hospital, but as soon as he got in the ambulance, he passed out. Not only did he have external injuries, but he also had internal bleeding. If they couldn't stop the bleeding quickly, the boy might never wake up. In a critical moment, the man decided to use a balloon to stop the bleeding, but the ambulance was moving. Doing this kind of procedure on a 1-centimeter wound was really hard.
How'd that go for you?
50-50.
But to save the boy, the firefighters had to cooperate. The woman brought in an ultrasound machine to find the spot, and the firefighter driving slowed down in the shaking vehicle.
Okay, got it. Now here's the tricky part.
After securing the catheter, the man slowly inserted the balloon.
BP's back, and so is our boy!
The boy regained consciousness.
Dad?
Hearing Dad reminded the man of his own son.
Gonna be okay, kid.
Are you missing your dad? The man was frozen solid like a popsicle. The captain quickly started CPR, but with a crisp crack, the man's chest shattered. This unfortunate man had only been rescued a day earlier when he was trapped under a car, with his arm bone sticking out. Screaming in pain, the firefighters quickly anesthetized him and lifted the car to save his arm. However, the man was still determined to participate in an upcoming golf tournament. Ignoring his wife's objections, he went for a cryotherapy session.
And I hope you freeze to death.
When the firefighters arrived, the man had already been frozen for 34 minutes, and the door was locked. The woman said she had tried using a hairdryer to warm him up, but it didn't work. The firefighters quickly pried open the door. The captain knocked on the man's chest and found it surprisingly fragile. He attempted to perform CPR, but then this boy was completely encased in concrete. His hands shake like a leaf. He cried out, begging the doctors to save him. The doctor told him the several tons of concrete were squeezing all the moisture out of him. Keep crying. He'll turn into a raisin. The boy had no choice but to suck it up and hold back his tears. The doctors started tapping and chipping away at the concrete bit by bit. After 34 minutes, they were down to just one stubborn patch on his belly, but that piece was the most dangerous. Removing it could release toxins into his bloodstream and knock him out cold. Sure enough, the boy fainted right on the spot. Just then, a girl swooped in, claiming to be his girlfriend. It was her that made him jump into the concrete. She leaned down and gave him a kiss, and the boy woke up. The man is talking on the phone with his wife. Suddenly, a truck appears behind him, heading straight for him. Before he can even tell his wife he loves her, the truck crashes into the phone booth. Round and round it goes, until the man runs into a car and drives away to escape. Just when he thinks it's over, while waiting for a train to leave, the truck shows up again. It pushes him forward and tries to make him crash into the train. Luckily, the train leaves in time, and the man barely avoids disaster. The truck honks 3 times and then drives off. But as he drives downhill, he sees the truck waiting for him at the bottom. He tries to overtake it, but it blocks his way and fills the air with exhaust. He has no choice but to stop and wait. He hides in a corner, deciding to wait until he wakes up. 10 hours pass, and only when a train passes by does he wake up from the noise. He laughs to himself, thinking it's finally over. But up ahead, he sees the truck again. Isn't this a dream? To go viral on TikTok, the girl stuffed a harmonica in her mouth, but she didn't realize it was just like a light bulb, easy to put in, hard to get out. When the firefighter asked her, she could only blow the harmonica in response. Even more ridiculous, her friend was translating for her.
How are you feeling?
She says it hurts like hell.
It's okay. We're gonna pack you up and take you to the hospital.
She wants to know if there's anything you can do here. We don't have insurance. We can't afford an ambulance or a hospital stay.
The firefighters immediately brought over some lubricant and pliers, preparing to forcibly remove the harmonica. Meanwhile, the girl's friend whipped out her phone to start a live stream, even with just 8 viewers, but the captain didn't stop her. It was a good lesson for the girl's fans, not to put random things in their mouths. After some effort, she successfully removed the harmonica, but the girl's face would still need some time to recover. A crowd gathered outside the operating room because today's patient is a panda. The panda had some heart problems. Not even regular vets wanted to treat it, and the heart surgery chief was unsure what to do. But the hospital said they had to save the panda, not just because the annual rental fee for pandas is a whopping $1 million, but also because people love giant pandas. If the Chicago hospital can save it, it would be great for their public relations and could bring in a lot of donations. The hospital director promised that once the donations came in, the heart surgery department would get priority. So, the doctors had no choice but to go ahead with the surgery. But during the operation, the panda's heart rate shot up, its blood pressure dropped quickly, and its heart stopped. The doctors had to give it electric shocks. After 2 rounds of shocks, the panda's heart rate came back, and the surgery continued. But the ultrasound showed there was fluid around the panda's heart. So, the doctors had to do a pericardiocentesis to drain it. Finally, the panda's blood pressure and heart rate returned to normal, and it woke up from its coma. But seriously, isn't this panda just a person in disguise? The landlord comes to collect the rent, but waiting for her is a surprise. Surprise, baby. The woman hides in the bathroom, calling for help.
Is the attacker still there?
Yes, it's in the other room.
It?
Yeah, it's a tiger.
At the hospital, a man claims he was bitten by his pet, but the scratch marks look way too big for a regular pet. Eventually, after the police press him, the man reveals the truth, but the police is curious. How did he get such a big animal into his apartment? Turns out when he adopted it, the pet was only a few months old. He treated it like a cat, until recently when he realized it was a tiger. This guy is pretty confused. Meanwhile, the fire crew also arrives. The firefighter lowers himself from the roof.
Kitty.
The firefighter almost slips and falls. Luckily, his teammate is strong, and once he regains his balance, he aims for the tiger, but the landlord, losing too much blood, mistakes the tiger scratching the door for help. After successfully sedating the tiger, the firefighters finally get to go in, but the landlord's first words when she sees them are,
No pets.
The plane had just taken off. The captain was chatting with the co-pilot about what to eat for lunch, when suddenly, another plane came straight at them. The captain was sucked out of the hole. Luckily, a seat blocked the hole just in time, but the whole plane was in chaos. The black cop looked at the hole in shock, but quickly pulled herself together and crawled to the cockpit. The co-pilot was badly hurt, but just before passing out, he managed to hit the autopilot button, letting the plane fly on its own. The cop tried to contact the control tower, but realized there was no signal. Surprisingly, her phone had service, so she called 911. The operator quickly transferred her to the control tower, and they got an expert to coach her on landing the plane.
I'm gonna land the plane!
The cop was shocked, but she had no choice. The expert told her to turn the plane around, using the control panel, but she couldn't find the right switch. A little boy pointed.
This one!
And the plane finally turned around.